Welcome to a tale of horror and dark enchantment. In this video, we dive into the spine-chilling story of a group of friends who stumbled into a house of nightmares, seeking pleasure but finding something far more sinister. Follow their terrifying encounter with the beautiful yet demonic Dwan sisters, as one man fights to save his friends from a fate worse than death. Prepare yourself for a night you won't forget as we unravel the terrifying events that unfolded in the House of Horrors. As a teenager, you just want to have fun and enjoy yourself, especially when you're with friends. We, my friends Manuel, Richard, and I, were bursting with energy. It was a Friday and still quite early, so we wanted to do something fun together. We decided to go out that evening and have a wild night. Manuel hesitated about joining us because he was a bit tired, but eventually he came along because he didn't want to miss out on the fun. Around that time, Manuel was very interested in heavy metal music. It was all he listened to. I like listening to it occasionally, but I wasn't as obsessed as Manuel was. I was raised in a Christian and very spiritual household, which naturally didn't go well with heavy metal music. But as a teenager, you tend to rebel, and I did my own thing, doing exactly the opposite of what my parents expected of me. My father was very religious, and he wouldn't have been okay with my lifestyle back then. Richard and Manuel are cousins, and I noticed that Richard was a bit scared/intimidated by Manuel. He followed him everywhere, and it was obvious he looked up to him. When Manuel was around, Richard immediately became insecure and doubted his own opinion, letting Manuel decide everything for him. He never refused when Manuel asked him for something. He really didn't dare to go against Manuel's will. I have to say, Manuel was quite a dominating presence in our group, which made him unconsciously seen as the leader of our friend group. Manuel, who was super excited about our idea to go out, asked if we wanted to go out with some girls from his friend's club. That's what he called their group, the group he usually hung out with to listen to/play their heavy metal music and engage in dark paranormal stuff. I'm not exactly sure what they were doing in their club, but as I understood it, they were experimenting with all sorts of black magic, trying to see what powers they could get through their actions. I asked, "Do you mean the Dwan sisters? Did you want to go out with them?" Manuel said, "Yeah, I meant them. They're hot, right? Why do you ask? Do you have problems with them?" I said, "No, I don't have any problems with them. I was just asking because you know I have a girlfriend now. It's a serious relationship. Olivia wouldn't like it if I went out with a group of girls. It's disrespectful and she'd be really upset with me." To which Manuel laughed and said, "Well, just bring her along, call her and ask if she wants to come with us." The Dwan sisters were 3 Brazilian girls, sisters to each other. The oldest sister, named Latifa, was really into Gothic music. Everything related to devil worship fascinated her. All the sisters seemed to be into it, and they looked like it too. It seemed like they had stepped straight out of a horror movie. They were very beautiful girls, but they were always dressed in Gothic clothing from head to toe, with black lipstick combined with makeup and pale skin, as if they were walking corpses. To be honest, it looked quite scary. I didn't understand how anyone wanted to look like that and found it okay. Back to the story. So I picked up Olivia and went to the house where the party was supposed to be. When I finally arrived after about 2 hours, the house party was already in full swing. Everyone was happy and the fun atmosphere was there. The metal music was playing. I saw that there were several other people there, so it was a fun crowd. Manuel seemed completely obsessed with the 3 Brazilian girls, looking at them with an admiring, infatuated gaze. As I walked in, I saw Latifa, one of the sisters, coming towards me. She gave me a tight hug and wanted to kiss me on the lips, despite my girlfriend standing right next to me. I quickly turned my cheek towards her, preventing her from kissing me on the lips. Latifa quickly gave Olivia an uninterested handshake as a greeting and then walked away. Olivia gave me a dirty look and seemed angry and irritated. It was clear she didn't appreciate Latifa's action. Olivia and I had only known each other for a month or so she probably immediately mistrusted me and didn't know what to think. Because suddenly, a girl she didn't know came up to me and tried to kiss me on the mouth. I didn't say anything at that moment because the music was too loud to have a conversation. The party was fun, there was laughter, drinking, dancing, and some of the guys and girls were even smoking marijuana. The hours flew by, and it got later and later. Eventually, when it was already deep into the night, Latifa asked, "It's already quite late. Who wants to sleep here? Our parents have been on vacation in Brazil for a while. They're not coming back until Tuesday." Manuel was the first to shout, "Yes, count me in. I'll stay the night." Richard, who had no opinion of his own, of course, decided to stay too because Manuel was staying. Richard looked at me a bit uncomfortably, as if he wanted to tell me something. I walked up to him. "What's up, man? Is something wrong? Do you want to come with me and Olivia? We can share the taxi, no problem," I said. Manuel, who wasn't far from us, looked in our direction. Richard hesitated, looked at Manuel, and then said, "No worries, man. I'll stay. I'll walk with you guys to the taxi, okay?" I decided to leave and head home, took Olivia's hand, and we got up to leave. She was tired and really wanted to go already. Abigail, also one of the sisters, didn't like that we were leaving. She preferred everyone to stay and sleep over. But I excused us and said we really had to go home because of our parents. She understood that, and we walked outside. On the way to the taxi, Richard grabbed my arm and said, "Hey, you've learned spiritual things from your father, right?" He looked at me with real fear in his eyes, looking very nervous, and his hand was clammy with sweat. I looked at him surprised, concerned. "Dude, what's going on? Why are you asking me this? You're making me a bit worried and you're shaking all over," I asked. He just kept rubbing his hands together as if he wanted to say something, but didn't dare to express it. "Come on, tell me what's going on with you," I tried again. "When you've dropped Olivia off, please come back here. I want to come with you, but Manuel won't be okay with that. So come back here, okay?" Richard said. "What? Are you letting him decide for you? Manuel is not your father. Don't let him decide what you should and shouldn't do. Just come with us and let Manuel think what he wants," I said. He hesitated again and said, "No, I'll go back. The others are waiting for me." I didn't understand who was waiting for him. He hurried back to the house and yelled at me, "Bro, just come back for me later, okay?" I was tired and quickly got irritated by this, but I was a bit worried about Richard, so I said, "Okay, buddy, I'll be back in half an hour." My gut feeling told me something was off because Richard wasn't usually so nervous. There must be something wrong because I didn't know him like this. As a good friend, I had to go back, even though it was already past 3 a.m. I dropped Olivia off at home with the taxi and then headed to my house. Once there, I grabbed my bike because I didn't have enough money to take another taxi to the Duan sisters' house. When I arrived at the house, I felt a strange sensation wash over me as soon as I entered the yard. It was like I was dizzy, nauseous, and at the same time, I got an erection. Why am I suddenly hard, and not just normally hard, but abnormally hard? I asked myself. I suddenly smelled a sweet, incense-like scent. I saw that my silver rings had a strange dull color, almost looking dirty. They looked almost black. The rings I wore were not ordinary rings. I had received them from my father for spiritual protection. Since my silver rings were normally bright and clean in color, but suddenly almost black, it immediately struck me. Due to my father's spirituality and faith, I knew certain things about this, and I knew it wasn't a good sign if jewelry suddenly became dull and black. Something was wrong, only I didn't know what it was. People with spiritual cultural knowledge will be able to confirm this. In our faith culture, silver rings are often used for protection and other purposes. I don't know about other cultures, but for us, it's just a thing. But anyway, my rings had all turned black and dull. I felt this served as a warning, but I still cautiously walked to the door of the house, which was open. I walked through the house looking for Richard because I didn't want to be there anymore. The smell became stronger and heavier, as if someone was holding a cloth with that scent right under my nose. I started to pray, a prayer my father had taught me. It happened automatically because I felt like something was wrong. I walked past the first bedroom and opened the door softly, saying, "Richard, are you there?" I got no answer. I saw two people in a corner of that bedroom engaged with each other. They were having sex there. One stood against the wall as if she was arrested with her hands wide, and the other was penetrating her. It was quite wild. The room reeked of sweat, alcohol and drugs. Just awful, to be honest. It wasn't a pleasant smell. Richard seemed paralyzed, weak, and helpless. He looked at me and said, "Thomas, help me," while extending his arm toward me. I saw tears rolling down his cheeks. Richard was a good fighter, even stronger than I was. Seeing him like this deeply affected me because such a strong guy was now lying there crying like a little child. This wasn't a normal girl on top of him. Maybe someone else wouldn't have noticed it. But I have a third eye, and I saw Abigail in her true form, sitting on Richard's. She didn't have a human appearance. Her skin was dull, and it seemed like her body had scales. She was riding him wildly, making scary sounds and biting his neck in between. I think that's why Richard was so weak and barely able to do anything, because the biting in the neck was something spiritual, sucking out the blood and the spirit of the person. In demonic rituals, blood is always used. It's drunk and used in various ways. In this case, Abigail was possessed by a demonic entity. Abigail noticed me in the doorway when Richard raised his hand toward me and called my name. She looked at me with a wicked look and said in a whispering, seductive voice, "I'm fucking your friend so good. Do you want to try me too? You won't regret it. See how he's enjoying it. Come on, you know you want me too. I'll do anything you want. I wouldn't refuse if I were you." I knew this demon realized that I was aware of what was happening and still tried to get me to have sex with her. Demons always know when you have a gift, and when you can see them, they feel caught. Abigail, or the demon possessing her, tried several times to get me to have sex with her. Meanwhile, she kept making thrusting movements on Richard and moaned extra loudly to make it clear how good the sex was. She wanted to seduce me into giving myself to her too, so she could pamper me just as hard. This confused me so much because demons mess with your mind, and their goal is to cause confusion and ruin you, as if she wanted to hypnotize me and make me do what she wanted. But I kept praying to myself so I wouldn't fall into her trap. I ran into the room and tried to kick her in the chest to get her off him, but she dodged me and jumped off Richard into a corner, and I suddenly saw how big her claws were. Believe me, people, this was purely demonic. It wasn't a human who was having sex with my friend. If someone else had walked into the room, they would have seen a girl having sex with a boy. This was because they didn't have the gift and would think the boy suddenly died of a heart attack or something. But thanks to my gift, I could see the demon in its full form, clearly planning something with my friend. She dodged my kick, and I saw her clawing in the air while making all sorts of strange cries. I stabbed towards her face with my dagger, and a deep cut appeared, making her scream. She immediately grabbed her face and moved a bit further away from Richard. The blood that came from her face literally spurted out because my dagger had made a deep wound. The floor was covered in blood. Abigail kept making strange, beast-like sounds, just sounding inhuman. Richard was now slowly moving and crawling towards me. I grabbed his arm and pulled him closer to me. Latifah suddenly jumped at us, but I kicked her right in the face. She seemed to want to attack again, but I kept kicking her. It didn't seem to affect her much as it would a normal human. She was not easily put off and kept attacking. Logical, because she was possessed and had more strength than an average person would. Each time I kicked her, she screamed, but she kept coming back to attack me. Eventually, I didn't know what to do with the situation, so I kicked her hard against her knee, breaking it. This time, she screamed even louder and more terrifyingly than before. When she was momentarily distracted, I kneed her in the jaw, making her fall backward onto the bed in the middle of the room. I didn't look at her condition after that, but I saw her lying still as if she was unconscious. With all my strength, I pulled Richard up and supported him as best as I could. We stumbled out of the bedroom together. I closed the door behind me because if Abigail came after us, I would at least hear the door. Richard and I walked down the hall. He was still completely naked. I had no idea where his clothes were and wasn't planning to look for them. I shouted through the hall, "Sammy, where are you?" hoping he would answer. Because honestly, I wasn't planning to look for him in the entire house. I just wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. I made a last attempt to get not only Richard, but also Manuel out of this cursed house. After calling out several times in the hall, Manuel suddenly came out of one of the rooms I hadn't checked yet. He was also completely naked. I didn't need to ask what he had been doing. He looked at me with a furious expression, eyes that were completely bloodshot, as if they were filled with blood. He didn't seem himself at all. His mouth was also covered in blood. It looked like someone had knocked his teeth out because his chest and neck were covered in blood, as were his mouth and the lower part of his face. "What the fuck is wrong with you, Sam? Are you one of them? You look like a crazy person. Look at your eyes. You don't look normal, man. Let's get out of this house. Something's not right here. Everyone is possessed. Let's go, man." Behind Manuel, the other two Duan sisters, Andrea and Sana, came out of the bedroom. They were also naked and had blood on their breasts, mouth, and body. I didn't know what had happened in that bedroom, whether they had performed rituals with blood or drank each other's blood. I didn't even want to think about it, but I didn't get the chance either because the girls looked at me with a mean smile as if they were challenging me. Manuel turned back to Richard and me. He said, "Why are you guys making such a fuss? Nothing is wrong with this house. On the contrary, we can all enjoy these hot girls. They'll do anything you want. You just must lie down and enjoy. Stop resisting and give in to the pleasures of life." I shouted, "Are you crazy? Look at yourself, boy. You're not yourself, Manuel. If you could see how you look now, come with us out of this house. Have you seen how Latifa looks? These are not humans, Manuel. Can't you see that?" Manuel got angry. I saw that my words confused him because he recognized that we were his friends, but at the same time, it was as if he was fighting with the entity that had taken over him. But we clearly saw the aggression in him as we refused to give in to the girls. He was now willing to attack us, and we saw that clearly. He growled and made unnatural sounds. I began to pray like never before in my life, as if someone else was speaking through my mouth. I knew this was most likely my guardian angel speaking through me. I've had this guardian angel since I was a little boy. He has rescued me from unpleasant situations and protected me when necessary. The prayer flowing so smoothly from my mouth was once again the work of this guardian angel. That night, I witnessed once again the power of prayer, as the words that came from my lips made Manuel and the girls immediately step back. It was as if the prayer caused them pain, and they all looked startled. I heard growls from all of them, as if they were animals feeling threatened and backing away. I kept repeating the prayer, and the three of them took more steps back toward the bedroom they had come from. With a trembling voice, Richard said to me, "Thomas, let's get out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm scared and I feel weak. I can barely stand." I could feel him truly trembling, how frightened he was. I was scared too, but I didn't dare show it. I felt strengthened by the prayer and the presence of my guardian angel. I didn't know how else to get out of this situation. "Okay, let's leave right away, I said. Suddenly, the door of the last bedroom swung open, and Latifa rushed out like a mad woman. She came toward me where I stood at the beginning of the hallway with Richard. I continued praying, raising my voice even more when I saw Abigail approaching me like a beast. But the closer she came to me, the weaker she seemed to become. The prayer disturbed her. She clearly weakened. Her fierce, demonic appearance transformed back into that of the beautiful Brazilian girl before our eyes. Suddenly, she looked normal again, as if nothing had happened. Her eyes looked loving and innocent again. Her face was still covered in blood, but she was beautiful again. Tears streamed down her face, and she said in a sweet but urgent voice, "Please stop talking. Don't repeat. Go away. Take your friend and leave this place." She didn't come much closer because the prayer was like fire to her. She stayed at a distance and urged me to leave quickly. Richard also said, "Come away! Come away!" I asked him, "But what about Manuel then?" Manuel screamed, "Get lost! Get out of here! I'm staying!" Latifa sat there on the ground like a pitiful human being, looked at me, and suddenly said again in that demonic voice, "Go away! Never come back here! We don't want you here!" After this, she started laughing hysterically. The laughter went on, and it was quite terrifying to witness. I said nothing and ran outside with Richard. Once we left that house, it felt like we had entered a completely different world. Our lungs and noses finally felt like they were getting fresh air again. In that house, it always felt like we were lacking oxygen. The smell in that whole house was very unpleasant, like diarrhea, rotten meat, and breathing seemed like a real struggle there. You just wanted to vomit from the stench that hung there. The atmosphere outside on the street was very different and felt like a huge relief. Richard suddenly started crying loudly with relief. He realized then that he had escaped death or something very bad. The tears flowed freely. I had given him my shirt to cover his genitals because it was a chilly night. So we walked all the way to my house, both lost in thought that we didn't even know who had seen us walking like that and who hadn't. I don't think Richard cared who had seen him naked on the street, because what mattered to him was that he was saved. We walked to my house because I knew my parents weren't home. My brothers weren't there either because they had gone to stay with family. Once we arrived at my house, I sent Richard to take a shower, and then I tended to his wounds. I gave him some clean clothes of mine. Sleep here. Tomorrow I'll take you home because it's too late to be out on the streets now. You're safe here. Nothing will happen to you, I said to him, knowing that our house was culturally protected by my father. So Richard stayed the night with me, and the next morning, I took him home. Our friendship remained intact until shortly after that, when he moved to another country with his parents to live there. What do you guys think about this story? Please let us know in the comments and leave a like so we can grow our channel. See you in our next video.